We're diving into how to fix the frustrating Null idToken error in Firebase Google Authentication on Android. This error typically pops up when your app tries to access Firebase services after a successful Google sign-in, but the authentication process hasn't properly returned an ID token. Let's troubleshoot this step by step. 1. Verify Google sign-in implementation. First, double-check your Google sign-in setup. Make absolutely sure you've correctly configured your Google Services JSON file and added the necessary dependencies to your build.gradle files. Ensure the SHA-1 fingerprint of your signing certificate matches the one registered in your Firebase project. 2. Check internet connectivity. Seems obvious, but a lack of internet connection prevents the authentication process from completing, resulting in a null ID token. Add a simple internet connectivity check before initiating the sign-in process. 3. Examine the sign-in result. Don't just assume sign-in succeeded. After calling sign-in, or the equivalent method, carefully examine the result. It should contain the necessary authentication information, including the ID token. If the sign-in failed, handle the error appropriately, logging details for debugging purposes. A common mistake is not properly handling exceptions or asynchronous operations. 4. Inspect the Firebase. Configuration. Verify your Firebase project is correctly set up and linked to your Android app. Go through each step of the Firebase setup instructions again. Even a small oversight can cause problems. Pay close attention to the project overview and the Add Firebase to your Android app section. 5. Review asynchronous operations. Remember, authentication is asynchronous. You must use callbacks or coroutines to handle the result of the sign-in operation. Attempting to access the ID token before the authentication process finishes will inevitably lead to a null value. Use appropriate methods to wait for the result and handle potential errors. 6. Check for multiple Firebase instances. Having multiple Firebase instances in your application can lead to conflicts, particularly concerning authentication. Ensure you are using the same Firebase instance throughout your app. 7. Examine the Firebase Auth instance. Make sure you're using the correct instance of Firebase Auth. Incorrectly referencing the Firebase Auth instance can lead to unexpected results, including the null idToken error. 8. Debug with log statements. Strategically placed log statements throughout your authentication code will provide invaluable information about the flow of execution and pinpoint the exact location where the null idToken occurs. Don't just log the idToken itself, log intermediate values and method return statuses to get a comprehensive view. 9. Emulator testing. Use the Android emulator to perform testing and ensure the issue isn't device-specific. This helps isolate problems related to device configurations or specific versions of Android. 10. Clean and rebuild. Sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. Cleaning and rebuilding your project can resolve unexpected build-related issues that may subtly impact the Firebase authentication process. Thoroughly address each of these points, paying attention to asynchronous behavior, error handling, and proper Firebase setup. By meticulously reviewing your code and following these steps, you should be able to resolve the troublesome null idToken error and get your Firebase authentication working smoothly.